That's not in the spirit of the game, Travis.
Come on, man. It's competitive. He didn't hit the shit out of her. It's always like smashed it at her. He just hit a normal ball at her.
Well, he could have just hit it to the open court.
Nope.
Unbelievable.
What about Hayden teeing off on you when you guys were playing? And
you laughed at me.
That's part of the game, bro.
You literally, I didn't even know it. I looked back for you, and you turned and laughed at me. That's insane.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like, don't do that to my partner. I'm gonna take. You didn't do that. You laughed.
You deserved it.
Oh, 100%.
You totally deserved it.
Say it like that again.
Tifosi.
Do you know what? One more time.
Tifosi.
You know what that means? Tell the people what that means.
So, tifosi is the Italian word for superfan, and that is exactly who they make their eyewear for.
And all this talk about the crazy paddles,
Yeah.
eyewear, more important than ever.
I think yours is they're probably slightly better suited than mine.
Yours are for
mine
styling
look
around.
great. I'm about to go to Italy on my honeymoon, and you're not getting these back.
Me,
Tifosi.
I feel like maybe I'm either blind or the Terminator, but on the court, I think these are exactly what you would need. Do you think that if these paddles don't slow down a little bit, that eyewear is just going to be like, you got to wear eyewear? Like, what if they get even faster? This is a total tangent.
Oh boy, if they get faster, we're in trouble. I mean, you can already tell like how many more people are wearing eyewear now compared to last year. Like I think Anna Leigh was like the only one who was wearing eyewear last year, and now like probably at least a third of the tour is. So yeah, it's gonna be I could almost see it being like the helmet in football. Like it could be required at the pro game at some point.
Well, Tifosi Glide technology allows the frame to slide on comfortably and provide an anti-bounce fit. Is that anti-bounce? Did I say that right? With an integral hinge ensuring these sunglasses slide on easily without pulling your hair, which is an issue for you, obviously.
Nah,
Crafted.
My hair, look, your hair is all like flowy and...
You got like a fade going.
It's not going to pull against a fade. It would pull against that.
Yeah, correct. Crafted from shatterproof polycarbonate, these lenses not only reduce glare, but also offer scratch resistance, ensuring unparalleled eye protection. Hydrophilic rubber nose pads that increase grip the more you sweat, so glasses will stay secure during even the most intense activities. Now, that is where it would benefit you a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
TifosiOptics.com. That's TIFOSI optics.com. All caps DINK 20%. 20% off. It is live now. Go to TifosiOptics.com and get your eyewear because the paddles are getting faster. You don't want to lose an eyeball.
So I'm stealing these.
They're yours, dude.
Oh, hell yeah. Sweet. Thank you, Tifosi. Let's go. I'm wearing these on the honeymoon.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, okay, I saw I don't know if we talked about it on our podcast or I saw it from a clip of another podcast, but you talked about going back to your childhood. You guys had a ping pong table in the basement up against a wall in a peculiar way, and you were talking about how the positioning of that table forced either I think you and Ben to hit certain style of shot that translated into a shot you guys use in pickleball.
Yeah, so we had a ping pong table in our basement, and I think it might have been on this podcast that we talked about it at one point. But to reiterate again, we had the ping pong table in our basement where a bookcase was up against one side of the table on the far side. So basically a right-hander's backhand side. And traditionally in table tennis, the forehand is the more dominant shot. You're going to be more aggressive with it, and you would run around and move to your backhand side to hit forehands. But because the bookcase was there, it got in the way. And as the older brother, I would make Ben take the bad side. I would say, you're going to go over there on the bookcase side. And what he had to do to adjust was to hit more backhands. And not that it necessarily taught him the backhand technique, but it did force him to hit more backhands simply because he was obstructed by that bookcase. So we have a good picture of it. And actually, I think the picture of it, the bookcase is moved further away than it used to be. It actually used to be closer than that. But I think that had that bookcase not been there, it's quite possible that Ben would have played a more dominant forehand game and not developed the backhand roll. that he now uses to great effect on the pickleball court. So that's why a lot of people really enjoy that story.
Interesting.
Clip that.
What do you think was more formative in your pickleball skill? Your time playing tennis or your time playing ping pong?
I think they both have distinct benefits. I don't think that I would be the player or Ben would be the player without both of those sports. I think that as of right now, if I could pick any two background sports to create the perfect player, I would have to choose tennis and table tennis and merge those two. Of course, we haven't seen other combinations, whether it be badminton, etc., but I think those together hold a lot of value. I would have to pick tennis as the more important one just because of the racket skills you develop. The overall stroke production of something like ground strokes and just general coordination, vision, moving with your partner, etc. You can't really substitute the skills that you gain from tennis. If you look at somebody like Jack Sock, the guy's an amazing athlete. He's got great racket skills from tennis. And clearly they translate well to a pickleball court, or can translate well. I do think those are enhanced by other skills that you can acquire from table tennis. So something like the stroke production of rolls, very similar to table tennis. You have a paddle, and pickleball more similar to a table tennis paddle than a tennis racket. And something as simple as recognizing spin and knowing how it affects the ball on your paddle face. That came relatively natural to me and Ben because of the table tennis background. And we didn't even really think about it. Oh, if you receive slice, you're going to get more topspin. And here's the adjustment you should make. So people coming from tennis may or may not quite grasp that in the same way. And I do think that people are getting educated more in the pickleball sense, where a tennis player comes in and they start to get to know that just by playing pickleball. But I do think that table tennis was very valuable as well.
Yeah, as it pertains to like the slice, I didn't know that coming from tennis really. Like you do kind of get taught a little bit, hit up a little bit more on slices in tennis, but I never really knew the why, and it also didn't impact things a ton.
Yes.
But then now here with pickleball paddles, if somebody slices it to you, you basically can just kind of hit straight up.
Yeah.
Like you can really go after it as a result of it.
Yeah, and you've seen the slice returns almost disappear at this point, where you just don't want to give them that much backspin with as much topspin as they can create on a roll drop or a drive. And before, if you look back 3-4 years ago, the slice return was probably the preferred return. I can remember when Ben would almost always slice his backhand. Matt Wright had a pretty heavy slice. Wes Gabrielson as a throwback. Those were all heavy slice returns that were hard to control because you didn't have the same sort of spin potential on the paddles. So you couldn't use the spin against them as much. But yeah, in tennis, you would hardly ever apply that concept. The only time I could really think of applying it on a tennis court would be if you're stepping into a topspin shot that's coming at you and cutting down on the ball for a drop shot, and you're getting the ball to spin back towards you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. That's the only time I could really think where it would really work to your benefit. Otherwise, the amount of spin you can get from the strings just overwhelms basically anything else.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, what benefits are there of table tennis versus tennis? And I know you went into that a little bit, but I'm talking specifically. Tennis, you obviously have the ground strokes, the moving with the partners. Table tennis, you have the backhand roll shot.
Yeah.
Are there any other specific shots that you think table tennis is very helpful for?
Table tennis, I think the top few benefits would be, like I said, the rolls. So not just the backhand roll, but also the topspin roll and the orientation of the hand when it contacts the ball. So to keep the ball in on a table tennis table, you really need to close your paddle face more. It's almost completely closed on some shots in order to get the ball down enough to make the table. And if you account for the height of the table and the height of the net is actually the same exact height as a pickleball court. And
Interesting.
Then,
I didn't know that.
And then also, if you stand right at the end of a pickleball...
Hold on. You're saying proportionally?
Proportionally. So it's something called counter height, which is quite common across many things. But when you account for the height of the table, the height of the net, it's the same height in inches as a pickleball net off the ground. And get this, the same thing is true if you stand at the back of a ping pong table and you don't reach over the table. If you make contact right at that length, your distance to the net is almost identical if you're standing behind the kitchen line and reaching forward into the kitchen if you're relatively tall. So as long as your wingspan is pretty good, somebody like Ben is hitting his backhand roll from the exact same distance to the net as he would be on a ping pong table, give or take.
I mean, to just have that in your back pocket is like a throw-out fact.
Yes, it's something I've given some thought to, but clearly there are some very big similarities between pickleball and table tennis. I think that's the single biggest one. So the stroke production, because of all those facts, are going to be quite similar. And in table tennis, spin is, I'm not going to say it's everything, but it's so important. Like, if you can generate just a little bit more spin, that can be the difference maker. In pickleball, I view it a little bit differently. It's that spin is such a commodity in the sense that it's hard to generate it because of the equipment that you're playing with. Even the carbon fiber paddles that we play with now, trying to hit a smooth plastic ball with lots of spin is difficult. You can only get so much of it. So if somebody gives you an opportunity to create more, like a slice, you really want to take advantage of that, because now that means you can get just a few more RPMs on the ball, which is already hard enough to do, and somebody's just giving it to you. That's a massive advantage. So that would be the other thing that I already mentioned that I think table tennis really helped us understand is when a particular spin comes at you, and that applies to backspin, topspin, and side spin. If you think about the way the ball checks when it's delivered to you based on a particular angle, that's something that can also be used on a pickleball court. So if the ball's being hit to you from your left and then you hold the paddle flat, where's the ball going to rebound to? It's going to rebound more to your right. So just knowing the angles of the spin, the paddle, where you want to put the ball, it's all very similar. And when you have that familiarity, not to mention the great reflexes you need when you play table tennis, you can transfer that so easily to pickleball.
When you and Ben are hanging out, do you guys like talk about this stuff?
I wouldn't say that we talk about it on the regular, but certainly we bounce ideas off each other. I would say I'm probably more active about bringing it up in the first place, but Ben always likes to discuss it, whether it's a new shot or a new strategy or just experimenting. Ben was the one that was experimenting with different shots before I even started pickleball.
What about when you're out in public? Do you get recognized ever, either of you? I asked Zane this. He says every once in a while there's some random guy in a scooter who's like, Zane.
Random guy.
But it's
so funny.
It's not too common.
Well, it's actually funny because today when we were getting our rental car, the lady was like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Annalie Waters." She goes, "Hold on, my manager told me to wait for like if you came up to like go in the back and get him." And then she went to the back, got the manager out. I think it was Alamo, and the guy comes out like takes photos and was like this big pickleball fan. So it's like the most random places, kind of
right.
like Zane said, where like somebody.
It is starting to happen like more often though.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is at airports now, there will be people waiting with like tons of stuff for me to sign, and they're like, "We've been waiting here all day."
Oh yeah, it's
for
getting
you to
bad.
show up.
Wow.
Like
Okay, are these like middle-aged guys who look like they might not have a lot of hobbies, and they're like, "Please
I mean,
sign this."
sometimes
They are all guys. They are.
I would
all
be
men.
a little scared if I wasn't with my parents. Like if I was just traveling by
Right.
myself, I think I would be a little freaked
Those
out.
autograph guys can be a
But-
little interesting.
That's
Yeah.
creepy. Where's like it's a little strange. Just, like where's the place that like the most
Baggage
people
claim, rental car
Well,
places.
what happens is they'll find me like right after we put our bags and we're heading to TSA. They'll find me, and then when we land, they'll like call their friends in Arizona, and they'll be like, "Hey, our guys called us from Miami and told us you'd be on this flight," and then they're like waiting for us.
Yeah.
How do they
Yeah.
know? How do they know? Like,
That's what
when
we
you're,
can't figure out.
we can't
That's
figure it
what
out.
we can't
and
figure
that's
out.
the creepy
That's
part.
the
That's the
creepy-
really
that's the-
weird part.
that's
Like,
the-
are they there for like 3 days ahead of a tournament? Because like,
they told like the last time they were like, "We've been here all day."
okay,
Yeah.
But we don't know if they just know the flight we're on. Like we don't know.
As I said, not many hobbies, I would assume.
Well, we think they're selling the stuff online.
Yeah, they go put it right on
One
eBay.
time,
What
the
happens-
guys brought us a portrait of me and gave it to me as a gift for signing all the things. Like it's just
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah.
I think what happens more than her like getting just recognized like right off the bat is like, you know, you go into a store or whatever, and "Oh, why are you here? Pickleball," and then they'll be like, "Wait, are you?" And
Right.
I
you know,
swear
they recognize
sometimes
her more
people
that way.
recognize, like, I was at Blaze Pizza once, and the lady was like, like she was not like, she wasn't happy. You could tell she wasn't happy. And then she looked at me, started smiling, and was like, "What's your name?" And I just said Anna because I didn't want to I was like, Anna, and she was like, it was like she knew, but she didn't say anything. Like her whole mood changed, and then like we went along, she didn't say anything. But like I swear that happens all the time. Yeah, they just don't say anything, but they know.
It's almost worse because they're just looking at you and staring at you, and they're like, "Is that the person? Like, is that not the person?" And they're just staring, and I don't think they realize that they're just like looking at you. I'm like, that has happened to me a few times. I'm sure a million times more for you guys, but just the stare is so much worse.
Just go, yes. It's
The crazy thing is, I think it's why my grip in pickleball is so unique. Is growing up, I never had a tennis.
All right, let's do it. Grab the paddle, put it up in front of the camera, and show us like how you are gripping the paddle. Right.
Well, yeah.
Start it like a Western.
Yeah, I got you.
Move into your grip.
Well, yeah. So in tennis, you're always kind of taught to just kind of slide your hand down on the paddle. But when I was younger, my family couldn't really afford tennis lessons. So some guy at the tennis courts, my local high school courts, was just like, "Hey, if you want to use some topspin, why don't you just try putting your hand over more and you can get more topspin." Well, that was good enough for me. So then I tried that, and sure enough, I got more topspin, and now I am completely like over this way with my forehand. And I think I'm the only one that has this grip. I don't change my grip when I play, whether I'm at the kitchen line or the baseline.
Really?
It's the same grip. So now my backhand, I just put my left hand right on top. Notice the one finger up on the back side.
Yep.
I'm not stacking my hands. A lot of players will do that. I'm right over top. And that one finger out does give you more like guiding with the backhand as well. And then if they do attack me, this chicken wing is usually not there. I'm able to get to my stronger shot, which is my forehand pancake. So it's pretty unique. I definitely, when I used to teach a bunch of clinics, I would never teach someone the forehand pancake just because there's limitations with like the forehand drive. You can't like hit a flat one. It's more of like a top spin kind of loopier shot.
Yeah.
But it has its benefits too. So it's been pretty fun to have a pancake shot kind of named after you. But I can't take all the credit. It's from that 8th grade coach back on Whidbey Island that taught me the forehand grip.
Got it.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if to describe it, you're basically picking up. If you're going to describe how you grip the paddle, it would basically be set the paddle down, and the way that you would pick it up.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be your sort of Western forehand, whereas opposed to most players who are using that edge of the paddle as a guide and coming down from there. So it's basically toss the paddle down, pick it up. There's your Riley Newman grip.
Let me see this.
That's exactly right. And it took me probably like a good full year to dial in the forehand cross-court dink. The forehand cross-court dink was definitely the toughest part. Because of that grip, it's tough to get underneath the ball. So it took me a lot of practice to get comfortable with my forehand dink, but finally got it down. And even like when I play this next weekend, I'm going to be on the more of the right side where I want to be able to add in some forehand topspin dinks, some slice, just add more variations, some lobs. Because you don't want to be a stagnant player. You just got to always keep evolving, keep changing, because there's so many young players coming into the sport. How are you going to keep kind of staying close to the top?
Yeah. Lindsay's not playing with that grip, is she?
She's close to it, not as severe as I am.
Yeah, right.
Would you say there is a player that should use this? Like most people, you say you're going to go teach a continental. Like, is there somebody that you see?
A certain type of player, you mean?
Or a certain type of person, right? Somebody who hasn't maybe played pickleball before, but they have a certain racket sport background or a level of athleticism that you'd say, all right, I think you should give this a whirl.
So we were actually talking about this the other weekend, and let's say if I have kids way down the road here, if we ever wanted to teach my future son how to play pickleball, I would actually potentially teach him from the baseline, go more continental for your drives, for your ground strokes, even for your serve. And then once you transition up, now you're close to the kitchen line. Okay, now then let's maybe change this grip now over to now like the forehand pancake grip, because now when you're doing your volleys, now you have such a strong weapon when it comes to the kitchen line. But from the baseline, I think there is some limitations with the grip. So if I was able to teach someone like a prodigy, I would potentially do it that way.
I agree with you, but I think you can do it from the baseline. Actually, when I'm hitting forehands, if you have a spinny enough paddle, when I'm hitting forehands from the baseline, I'm in a full Western.
Yeah.
It's very much a loopier, more top spinny shot, which takes really, I think, good and precise timing, and it can get hot and cold for sure. But like, I think it's doable from the baseline. I think any grip has pros and cons, and I think you just have to find where your pros outweigh your cons, right?
That's exactly.
If your forehand dink is your weakness, but you're able to compensate by having a really strong ability to defend that chicken wing. I think most people would probably take that take that trade off at the pro level.
Yeah, I would agree so. And I think, I think it's just has its limitations, has its strengths, has its pros, and has its cons. And so you're just trying to figure out what is best for your personal game. And that's why I love pickleball so much, is there's so many different varieties and there's so many different methods on what works and what doesn't. And so just go out there. If anyone's listening who's a 3-5-4-0, just go out there, whatever feels comfortable and whatever gets the job done, just try it, because there's no one universal way how to do it. So I'm here to tell you that anything is possible if you just kind of just set your mind to it, you practice hard, and just keep going at it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've used a bunch of different paddles on tour, right? I know you've got a big announcement coming up, which we're not going to touch on today, apparently, which is a little heartbreaking, but we'll stomach that one. To what degree do you think like the paddle selection impacts your performance and how successful you can be?
To be honest, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
it makes a big difference, and I would say if I had to put a percent on it, it's probably 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
On your game, I think it is incredibly high, because there's some paddles right now that you play with it for a few days, and then the grit wears off really, really fast, and now you're like playing with a paddle that you can't put as much spin on or grab with the ball, and there's some that you can get a lot of power with, obviously. So it makes a big difference. When I originally went from Gamma to Takea, I never really shopped around. I never really talked to any other paddle sponsors. I just went with Takea because I've been with them for a few years, and they've been family ever since day one. So now being done with Takea, switching paddles, I was able to now kind of be a free agent, kind of test the market. But my very first call was Pro XR, and because it had the best paddles in my opinion. So I wanted to really talk to them first, get it in my hands, and then figure out from there if it could suit my game. And right now, I've only played with it for a couple weeks, but I really, really like the power and the spin you're able to get with the paddle.
Okay. All right. What's your relationship like with DJ Selkirk?
DJ Selkirk? Yeah. Well, it's actually funny because the very first time I met DJ, he was helping me with a clinic in Utah, and he's just been a really stand-up guy. I really, really like him on and off the court. And then I went to Seattle PPA. This is July of 2023, and it's 1 month after I did the Matt and I break up on Instagram. And we played him in mixed doubles. Yeah. And I got and I'm from Seattle, so my whole family, a lot of my college friends are there. They're going absolutely ham in the VIP box. I mean, they're going out of control. They might have had a few drinks. And so we played Matt and Lucy. I think it was the quarterfinals or the semifinals. I can't remember. But we ended up beating them in 2. And then DJ Selkirk played the Taylor Swift song, We Are Never Getting Back Together, which was funny, which was great. I liked it because I won that time. But then I think they ended up beating us the last time. I don't remember if I was with Lindsay or not. I don't think I was. And then they played it again. The second time, We Are Never Getting Back Together. And then I looked up at DJ Selkirk, and I'm like, really? The second time? Let's just keep it to 1. It was fun. But no, any of that stuff, dude, I think it's entertaining.
For sure.
To be honest, I play pickleball. Yes, I love it, but I play because of making people enjoy coming to watch me play pickleball. Mm-hmm. I'll do it for the people who have never seen me play. I like entertaining the crowd. You'll see me in between timeouts, throwing balls in between, playing catch with the fans, doing just different stuff that's just not boring. I want to just be an entertainer out there, and some people don't like it that I might a little bit cocky or ambitious or whatever the case may be, but I just love putting butts in the seats and just being an entertainer.
Yeah. So what's can I pry? Have you talked to Matt at all? Are you guys chill? Is there any bad blood there? Obviously it's got to be kind of a weird sort of walking on eggshells a little bit. Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of like when all of us here, we're 4 dudes here at a table. It's like when you break up with a girl, right? At first, potentially of how you break up with a girl, it can get a little awkward when you see it for the first time back in public, right? Or it can be really, really smooth. So it's one of the two. And Matt and I, when we first saw each other, it was, hey, how you doing? What's going on? It was very cordial. And then as soon as we got on the court, it kind of went sour. It went south. Right. And, we were playing in San Clemente. Thomas and I played Matt and James. And if you guys ever want to get a popcorn match and you're just bored at your house or you just want to watch some pickleball, I would recommend you watch it. It was in December, the PPA Tour Finals. And Matt and I, we had a good exchange back and forth. And it was the second or third point of the match. And he did his come on and stare down. And then I was like, all right, here we go. And then there was an absolute just mad chirping the whole rest of the match. Right. And as you guys know, I love to do a little barking myself. And it was a fun match. Ended up winning. But Matt and I aren't really necessarily best friends off the court, but on the court, we know each time when we play against each other, we're going to bring our best level and best effort, and I think it creates a really good product.
For sure.
It can be a healthy rivalry,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. I think especially like after that is if you were playing Matt, I was like, I have to watch this.
Yeah.
Like, I want to watch this.
I think fans do like a little bit of like
for sure.
controversy,
Oh, for sure.
talking kind of back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
yes, we love seeing the match where it's, really good competitive, but no talking. But I mean, I was looking at some of the people after I made a comment in San Clemente, and they were on the edge of their seats, and they're like, "Oh, did you just hear what he said?" Like,
Right.
I think it's engaging for people too. Now, am I going across the line on certain comments? In my past, yes.
No such thing.
In my past, of course. But I'm really trying to be kind of dialing it back when it comes to the chirping. But at the end of the day, I'm still here to win. And if it gets under their skin, which I know some players it gets under their skin, I'm going to use that to my advantage and and go at them.
So this was a lot of different interesting results. You took down the Johns Bros.
Christian and I played well. Actually, the funny thing is, the last time we played together was over in Mesa, where we lost first round, so we rebounded pretty well. But we almost lost to Tyler and Julian Arnold over at Dreamland. We lost the first game, won the second game, got down 6-0 in the third game, and I think we won like 11-7. We were on a roll after the side change in that one, and sort of kept that momentum going. We go right from Dreamland to over to back to the main site because it had dried up, and then we play the Johns brothers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, we had Collin on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we've talked a few different times about the type of game that it takes to.
We've literally diagrammed it.
We have. I diagrammed it,
whiteboard.
and we did our best job of implementing that. And really, I think the biggest part of that strategy is pulling Ben out wide, right, to open up the court a little bit more, and having somebody who can attack from the wing on Collin, right? So from the outside backhand corner of the kitchen, you either need to go at Collin or go pretty wide to Ben. Christian does a really good job of that by running around and hitting his forehand. I do a good job of it by rolling my backhand, and so that just sort of spreads the court a little bit more. And obviously, like, I'm not saying like, yeah, we cracked the Ben and Collin code whatsoever. No, they did not play their best. We played unbelievably. Like, we played at our ceiling, and they weren't, right? So they didn't execute as well as they normally do. We executed as well as we ever could, right? So I'm not saying that we cracked the code, but I do think that like the general strategy was good, and a ton of things went our way.
Right. Yeah, if you're playing a team that's supposed to beat you and you need to change it up, like, how do you approach that game? I mean, for you guys, it was you're playing aggressive, you're playing loose, pulling the trigger, and not letting the mismatch get in your head.
I think generally an underdog team plays more aggressively, right? If you're, I think there's more randomness when the ball is sped up. It's the points are pretty structured when you're hitting those soft dinks. Once the ball gets sped up a little bit more, there's a lot more randomness that takes over.
Yeah.
And you want that. You sort of want to break down the points and be a little bit more chaotic when you are the team that is the underdog. If you know, like, look, Christian and I know we're not going to like outgrind Ben and Collin in dinking rallies. Like, we absolutely know that. Nobody's going to outgrind Ben and Collin in dinking rallies. So we wanted to take our opportunities when we got them, and it's a fine line between being more aggressive than you might normally be and being reckless as well. So timed aggression, really going after your shots and playing to each other's strengths.
Yeah,
and your own
prevent
strengths.
rhythm, prevent them from setting up a structure, getting into their patterns. You want to promote chaos to the degree that you can. Controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos, yeah.
When you are thinking about Collin versus Ben and who you're playing the ball to, I mean, it didn't seem like you were targeting Collin like crazy. You were playing to Ben. But is that something you guys were actively talking about?
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing that we when we had the diagram is I think that the way to beat Ben and Collin is to play them as if they're equals, essentially. Like Ben's a stronger player, but Collin in his spot in his right side is really, really good when he's in his spot, of course. So moving the ball around and playing them basically 50-50 and making sure that Ben does have to stay on his side is super, super important. And I think that that's something that not everybody does a ton of. If you give Ben, the beauty of pickleball is no matter who you give a good dink to, if you're a 2.0 and you hit a great dink to me, I can't really do anything with it.
Right.
If you're a 2.0 and you hit a great dink to Ben's backhand, he really can't do anything with it. That's kind of the beautiful part of pickleball. If you hit a quality enough shot, no matter who's across the net, they can't really hurt you. So keeping Ben honest with some of those shots is important. And we really just tried to continue to spread the ball around. That way you sort of find some openings. What was the thought process for coming back?
I mean, well, a lot of it was like, I always describe singles as like that ex-boyfriend that you like really loved, but was not good for you. That was kind of singles for me, like it's great when it's good, but it's like this whole mental up and downness that's as well. And I probably put too much like of my emotion in it. Like a bad singles day for me is like the death of my dog. It's like, it's hard for me to get over. That was part of it, but also like I was exhausted last year. I wasn't doing the right things off court to maintain myself, and just during July I hit a wall. Like I remember after that tournament run, after I quit, I think I didn't touch a paddle. I just like laid in bed at my parents' house for like a week and just was purely exhausted. Like had to have my mom bring me food and water. So it was just a lot that I was putting myself through, and I wasn't doing the right things to prepare myself for it. So I definitely used the off season and last year as a time to recover, get my numbers back up, get a better diet plan, and start taking care of my body more off court and like build it up to get ready.
So was the plan always to do that, or did you really not know that you were going to come back eventually? Like you knew that you needed to obviously like fix some stuff and work on the off court, but did you know it in the back of your head that you'd come back?
It's better for the brand to retire and then unretire versus just take a break.
I think it's better. I think like when I said it, I meant it. Like, like when I said it, I didn't even think it was going to be that big a deal. Like I had been telling people in San Francisco the week before, like Catherine and Annalie, like I'm done now. Like my doctor's telling me to be done. I should be done. And so like when Ireland asked me that question, I didn't even think it was going to be that big a deal. And so then it kind of made it into this like big official retirement thing that I wasn't planning on. And I always in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I could probably come back. Like I want to come back, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think I truly believed it until I like actually stepped out there for the first time and did it.
Well, how does it feel to be back? Gold medal, monkeys off your back, as you put it.
Yeah. And then a big letdown week after. It's good. It's tiring, but I do think like you should do it. Like, I feel like if you're good at it, you should do it until you can't do it anymore. So I always say I'm just going to keep doing it until my body tells me I can again. Then maybe I'll retire and come back for a third one.
All right. I think we all know Theragun by Therabody. Deep, powerful massage in a simple, easy to use design. They make the little travel guns now. We've got the more standard one, the big one here. Super popular at the pickleball courts. I think my dad has like 7 of them. But you can also get the travel version to throw in your backpack. Refresh and repair your body with Theragun Prime, our powerful 16mm percussive massage therapy device made simple for active lifestyles. Engineered, listen to this, Zane, engineered to prioritize only the essentials. I thought I was going to say not only the essentials. Only the essentials. Featuring our scientifically proven deep muscle massage in a simple, durable design to provide fast, effective relief from aches and pains, accelerate recovery, reduce tightness, and improve circulation. Pair with the Therabody app to follow easy step-by-step routines so you can show up every day ready to take on a new challenge. We ran a survey. 33% of pickleball players that read the Dink newsletter actually use massage guns for recovery, performance optimization, all that good stuff.
Oh, the other funny story from the past few weeks was Collin Jaume getting bronze. That was the other story.
Yeah. Dylan Fraser meme. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think it is?
Yeah.
Or why do I know it is?
Oh, just
paddle. Come on, man. It's insane. I played this guy before in mixed. He would hit a drive and it's comical. It would be like, and now it's, so you can actually buy skill, buy force, buy spin with something that is a pure detriment. So you asked me earlier, Thomas, do I have a long-term hope for the business of pickleball? This will be the demise of pickleball if things like this are not outlawed, because the poor little girl over at Crescent is going to get hit in the face at 112 miles an hour and she's not going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so watching Collin suddenly be a force in mixed and get bronze, literally buying force, and he, of course, he's not buying it. He's getting it. They make it. But to see that improvement of power and spin was like, whoa, next level.
Yeah, over the course of a very short period of time.
And he's not doing anything wrong. He's playing within the rules. Like, I credit to him. He's definitely worked on his mixed game. It's gotten better. Credit to him. But, I mean, dude's hitting the ball 15 miles an hour faster than he was prior.
So, all right, let me pretend to be Collin here, right? And you're taking your stance.
Yeah.
I am just getting a paddle, and I have to get it tested like anybody else. Well, what's your problem? I played well.
I think the metrics for the testing system are primitive, and they are not at the point where they can have a exit velocity that's readable and a grit test that is accurate to showcase what the paddle is actually doing in someone's hands.
Mm-hmm. Well, Selkirk agrees with you. Have you heard about this?
No.
So we have a letter from Selkirk to their pro teams. I'll read it off. Should we read it?
I'm excited about this.
Do you want to read this?
You can.
All right. To all Selkirk pro players, this was from a couple of weeks ago. This letter is to inform you of an urgent and important directive from Selkirk regarding recent abnormally powerful paddles. As an organization, we do not regularly insert ourselves into matters related to pro play or rules. However, there are times when we believe matters affect the future of the sport we all love, and we must take action to protect its integrity. Selkirk's opinions regarding abnormally powerful paddles. These paddles significantly alter the nature of the game, not just for pro players, but for the average community player. These paddles may be unsafe for players to use. These paddles have the potential to significantly and negatively impact pickleball's growth and popularity if widely adopted. These paddles may not consistently pass standard requirements and in many cases may not pass a challenge at PPA events. They talk about racquetball's downfall, and they give a directive to all Selkirk pro players. Challenge all abnormally powerful paddles at PPA events. Paddles to challenge include Gearbox Pro paddles and Yola Alpha paddles.
You can't challenge anymore.
Yes. So I think that was implemented as this got circulated.
Got it.
Selkirk will pay for any costs associated with challenging paddles.
But you can't challenge paddles.
So
no,
now
you can't challenge anymore. Once a paddle tested and it's cleared to play, it's cleared. You can't say after the match, hey, that's now delaminated, now it's illegal. You can no longer do that.
Right, and the part of the reason why paddle challenges were important previously is because the argument has been made, and actually this argument stemmed from certain players that are now using a Yola paddle, that I could give my paddle to you for testing. You give it back, you said it passed. I go to my car with a mallet, and I'm just smashing the core of the paddle. I crush the core, and now I've got a highly illegal paddle that apparently I can use for the rest of the day.
Correct.
Right? Obviously, it's not going to pass tomorrow, but I brought 24 of them with me to the tournament.
So, Zane, as you always say, like, trash is trash and facts are facts. Doesn't matter who the trash comes from, where it is. Like, I side with them. I think they're spot on this front, and it is a detriment to the sport. You weren't meant to be able to hit passing shots off your back foot. I just don't think that's what the game was meant to do. It's kind of the beauty of it is that, and I'm sure you can relate to this, and I can relate with my Crescent buddies. As as much tennis as I've played and whether I'm more athletic or not, I can go have fun with them simply because I can't overwhelm them with power, force, or athleticism. And now you seemingly can. And that sucks because the buddies that I play with that are 65 years old and I like playing with them, if I was to use one of these paddles, they would hate playing with me. It wouldn't be fun anymore. So kudos to Selkirk on my front, from my end. Like, take a stand. If that's the stance you take, then stand by it because you're right.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. Like, I think that these paddles should be challenged, and I think it just calls into question exactly how some of these developments are going through the approval process. It's something that we've spoken about time and time again on here. Is like there are so many issues with these paddles. Like, the whole testing process is kind of a joke. At this point, like, what do we even do about it? Like,
the Pro Pickle Labs guys agree that these paddles shouldn't be legal, but they don't. Their hands are tied. Like, they're at the mercy of the PPA. They agree that, like, we shouldn't have to test 10 paddles to pass 2. The metrics are insane. They're coming off, but they can't do anything about it unless the PPA steps up and, like, look, we can't do this. This is stupid. Guys are hitting the shit out of the ball. Whatever it is, then the testing is irrelevant until that takes place.
And PPA is walking kind of a line, pretending that they're fully in line with USAP, mostly not. Like, you still have to be USAP approved, but we have different standards to test for PPL than what you have to. So companies are sending one batch of paddles for USAP approval, and then their players are getting something else for their thing.
It's like they're playing with metal bats and we're playing with wood. It's such a substantial juice up of the ball. So I don't know. Like, anytime you see that the primary sponsor is making those paddles, and look, credit to Yola, like, they made a great paddle. Their paddle's fantastic, but it's up to the powers that be to be like, hey, this is not the way the game should go.
Yeah. So you mentioned the baseball thing. I think that our paddles should have actually a far lower standard of power than amateur paddles. Like,
yeah, I agree. Spin's great. Spin creates interesting points. Power creates stupidity. It's crazy, like that's what this has come down to, is that this testing, it's become like a battle of the paddle, and that's what I reference. It's a battle of the paddle. Like, who has a spinnier, better paddle will probably have some success.
That's a bit of a mess.
I haven't heard anybody like complaining about it on the amateur level or like rec courts yet. So I feel like it hasn't really.
I have, in forums and whatnot. Yeah.
In forums, I've heard people like going to play tournaments where they play someone with a delaminated paddle. Delaminated paddles are a big issue at our park.
Yeah.
People are roping the ball. And like, again, credit to Yola. Like, there's probably 10 of the new Yolas at our park. Everybody wants it. But I've heard, Caitlin Kerr is an example. She plays like her rec games and little tournaments, and she plays people with the gearbox. It's like, it's headhunting. I'm going to get hurt out here. So I've heard it a fair bit.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this year, when we first switched to the Vulcan ball, which seemed to be a little bit faster, it was kind of cold, and players were coming out with some of these first prototypes. I, like, legit was thinking for, a week and a half, like, this sucks. I'm having zero fun playing with this combination of things.
I had the same feeling, Zane.
Yeah.
The same. I was wagering that, like, the forehand speed was roughly 50% faster than the prior year. People thought I was crazy, but then PB Studio just did a thing like exit velocity on the new paddles relative to the average paddle last year was about a 50% increase on exit velocity.
That's insane. We made this. The sport got 50% faster overnight.
And 10% was okay, fine. But 50%, like, dude, Dekel hits a counter from 50% faster. Yeah, point's probably going to end, and it ruined the sport. Like, everyone loves an extended hand battle. Suddenly, you don't have them. The ball is up. The point is over. Like, what are we not grasping here?
All right.
And
these aren't like pickleball sugar mamas, are they?
Ooh. No, of course not.
I don't know.
I'll go for a dinner.
That's where you draw the line. Sorry. Okay.
Exactly.
Hey, every pro pickleball player's got a couple of sugar mamas.
Yeah, I mean, you just said no hustles off limits. So
yeah, right after the final in Mesa, I'm walking back and this woman comes and she tells me in the ear, do you like old woman? I say, how much money do you have?
And what else is going on here? What's
she said a lot, but then it just ended up that right there.
Oh man, and that was in Mesa last time, huh?
Last week, yeah.
Is that her house?
Yeah.
No,
it's not.
We didn't get to like get the number or the name or anything. I think it was just a funny conversation, like like we just passed each other, and that's what came out.
Okay, Jaume,
Sure, yeah,
whatever you say.
I don't know if I buy that.
No.
Walk that one back. Okay, but I think it is unfair to just look at the return success metric as like the one indicator that we focus on, because there's more to the impact of a serve than just whether they get it back over the net. It's what is it set up for the next sequence of play, right? It's like how good can the return be, right? Because even if the return is some big pop-up and then the next shot is a put away, that's not reflected in this 97.8% number, right?
No, that's true. And sometimes it does happen that the third shot, it's an easy drive. There's still a chance for the player to return a fourth, even with a drive, because it's still a small court with two people. But yeah, there's definitely quick points thanks to a serve, just drive, shake and bake, or maybe an aggressive drop that you start ahead in the point.
Right.
But it also brings you a lot more. It brings you more to the kitchen because you get a more comfortable third shot. And let's say I'm played a few times in rec that I'm not hitting my serve as hard, and the returner is just blasting the return, and I'm having a really tough time getting in the kitchen because it's a really tough third shot. So having a good serve gets you a shorter return, which means you have a higher % chance to get to the kitchen. So it brings us more to the kitchen. It also makes a faster paced game, right? Again, like we said, one of the biggest things in pickleball for spectators watching is that they're saying is the game is too slow, too many dinking rallies, right? How many times are we complaining, these 2-minute dinking rallies or whatever that people don't like to watch? We might like to play them, but the average spectator doesn't like to watch them. So it does make a faster game. It just more aggressive third shot, which creates maybe a fifth or a seventh shot attack. It just creates faster points and more entertaining, in my opinion.
For the rec players out there, obviously these serve rules aren't going to be implemented in rec. People are still going to be serving big. If you're coming up against a big serve in the casual day-to-day play, how do you neutralize a big server? What should you be focusing on?
Yeah. So in general, if you are playing a big serve, you should go as far as you can. Maybe not as far as you can, but a few feet off the baseline. Get in a good athletic position, low, will help you just to get your body weight behind the ball. So when you return, you can go forward and have more weight behind your shot.
Yeah. You want your momentum to carry you for the kitchen.
Yeah, for sure. If you're standing close to the baseline and straight up, you'll have a much harder time.
I've got a YouTube video about this. It features Dekel very prominently. How to return big serves. Return pickleball with return pickleball serves like a pro using the 3 T's. You guys know the 3 T's?
Let's get to
target, technique, and timing or something like that. I don't really remember.
It features me?
It does, because I was talking about how to neutralize big serves. So I generally think back up, like you said. I think target's important because when I'm serving you or when I'm returning to you, I'm generally just trying to return right back to you, right? Biggest margin for error if you're going right back to the server.
I mean, don't give too many secrets about how to return against me.
No, I don't know anymore. New ball, I have no idea. New ball, I'm missing so many returns.
Zane does return my serve, one of maybe the best or one of the best from people I play against. It's funny, if you do practice it and you do focus on the right things, there's some people I get 0, free returns or free missed returns from, and some people that's a lot. So it just shows you can adapt and return better and well if you do the right things.
Generally, should you be returning if you're coming up against a big serve, flat, top spin? Should you be trying to slice it?
Totally flat, no spin. If you try to brush up the ball when it's coming at you fast, it's going to be just more difficult to time. If you're slicing and chopping, your goose is cooked. Just what I think about is mirroring the flight path of the ball. If the ball is coming at you at this angle, at a certain angle, I'm going to swing back at the exact same trajectory to try and have my paddle in line with the ball for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Makes it a little easier to time.
Depth, probably the most important aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, depth. For sure.
Yeah, got it. There you go, rec players. Okay.
Can we still shit on the Vulcan ball?
I mean, you can say whatever you want. I mean, we keep it. The one thing with me is I'm still going to keep it 100. Like, we got to be honest, right?
Fair.
And I think, this weekend is going to be interesting on those foam floors with the Vulcan ball.
So, not to derail things, but I had heard a rumor, and I figured you're at the center of all this, and you would know better than anybody. Are they changing balls or changing formulas or whatever for the Minnesota tournament?
Recipe.
Yeah. So I don't know if it will be ready for Minnesota, but I know that they have been working super hard to get new resin manufacturer, new manufacturer in general, and they're trying to change it. And, because I think what they feel like happened, and I shouldn't speak for Vulcan, so this is just, but the first batch of balls that were tested and were sent to PPA, because PPA did review those balls and approved them, we're good. I've had them since September.
What do you mean? Like they said, the check cleared and
yeah. Yes. They said the check cleared, send us whatever you want. But they lasted a long time. They weren't going out around. And then what I think Vulcan feels like happened is that when they ordered in bulk and they ordered 800,000 balls, the quality, may have suffered a little bit. Whether they will admit that or not, the quality suffered, and, they were just trying to get them as many balls as they could. And maybe, it looks like they've definitely have some issues they've got to fix.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me, right? So, like you do a test batch of, one SKU, you like it, and then you tell this manufacturer, hey, here's the biggest order you've ever handled, assuming they aren't manufacturing for other companies. They have to figure out how to efficiently scale that in a short time frame, and they're probably going to have to change some of their processes, and so the end product ends up being different.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've certainly seen that. I've yet to have a prototype paddle that ends up the exact same as the scaled version. Right. That seems to happen all the time. So.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of what happened. And Vulcan, let's be honest, this is new for them, right? They're not a ball manufacturer. Obviously, they got into it, and they still have responsibility to the pros and to the PPA tour, the amateurs, but I think they're trying to figure it out, and at least they're not just oh well, check cleared, and they're just sitting on it. People will get used to it. They are trying to make changes, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. I haven't talked to them in a minute, but I know that last I heard that they were trying to get a new resin manufacturer and make some changes to the balls. So
yeah, no, I crap on them, but it's I understand where they're coming from, and honestly, it's not the biggest deal in the world if the ball was not 100% quality for a couple of months, right? We'll look back at this and not care. And if they figure it out and they make it better, this will all be very much overlooked when we're thankful that we're not playing for Duras,
for you,
right?
Yeah, but for you, it's your livelihood, right? You're playing singles, and it's 9-9, and a ball doesn't come up on a serve, you should get pissed.
Yeah, but I do think that there are certain things that affect both players equally, right? Something like that is, I always think about it, something like wind can be zero sum, where all you have to do is deal with the wind better than your opponent, and it's a win for you, right? So if you can deal with a crappy ball better than your opponent, that's a win for you. Obviously, it's not ideal, and we don't want points ending because of faulty balls. That definitely has to get fixed. But in the interim, I think players just kind of need to deal with it that way. If I can deal with this 5% better than my opponent, or not let it bother me, that's a win for me.
Pickleball isn't just about the game, it's about how you play it. and how you play depends a lot on what you're playing with. Enter Warstick. Experts in winning gear have stepped up to the pickleball plate with show-stealing pickleball equipment. They've got paddles that speak volumes with every swing, gloves that grip success, and bags that are spacious, stylish, and scream quality. No matter your level, Warstick's got something that fits your game and style perfectly. I've said this before. I think Warstick has some of the best branding in pickleball. If you don't believe me, just go to their website, check out some of the paddles, some of the coolest designs that are out there. Gear up at warstick.com and use promo code DINK, all caps DINK, for 10% off all their pickleball products. Again, use promo code DINK for 10% off. With Warstick, it's not just the weapon, it's the warrior. WARSTIC.com, code DINK for 10% off. In a recent post-match interview, you were talking about your unorthodox training style. We had a few people ask about that. You even mentioned it yourself. Give us a lowdown there.
Yeah. So I do like a lot of traditional stuff like drilling and training and whatnot, but I guess this is kind of like birthed through when I was working full time and I would just like take little breaks at home. So I do like a lot of stuff on the wall. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Cara Black, like do like her crazy forehand, backhand, like volley drills on the wall from way back in the day. But that was like a viral video. I don't know, a viral tennis video back when that was barely a thing. So then I kind of just mimic that a lot. And then I'll do some like offhand stuff too with that. I had a trainer one time who told me that there's a study that said like offhand training can like advance your cognitive like activity, or I don't know what the word it is I'm looking for, but yeah, so I do that. I have yet to find the study, so maybe he was lying, but I do some right hand stuff on the wall too. And then I do like a lot of table tennis training as well. Like I have a table tennis rebounder, which is basically like a wall, and I just hit like a bunch of backhand flicks to kind of improve my eye tracking and my technique on the flick side. And then I've also like coded this like super basic app that'll just like say random numbers like at 1 second intervals, and then I just have like these numbers like stickied on a wall, and I'm just like touching the numbers as like I'm hearing them. So I think that kind of maybe helps my reflexes as well. But yeah, it's all about like reps for these kinds of drills. So I'll do like 500 or so a day on the wall and like 200 flicks, 200 backhand loops on the table tennis table, and then like 3 minutes or so of like that reflex number thing. So I mean, it gets me close to like 1,000 or 700 extra reps a day that I normally wouldn't be getting, and it only takes probably like 15 minutes total. So that helped a ton when I was still working full time.
Let me just get this straight. So to become better at pickleball, you invented your own drill and you coded an app to facilitate the drill.
It's super basic. Like I just asked ChatGPT and it just gave me all the code really. I'm like not much of a programmer, but yeah. Like I saw some training on YouTube one time of some guy doing some reflex stuff, and the guy was just like shouting like numbers or different shapes on the wall. So this kind of mimics that. And then like I've seen there's like reflex, like you see the things at arcades where like the light lights up and you press the button. Just try to mimic stuff like that really. So
however, there's been a lot of talk recently about moving away from the third shot, hitting more drives. It seems to be trending in that direction.
Well, then someone else who had told me, it was Kyle, said hit your drives 50% from the baseline and use them more as a drop, and you have more time to get up to the kitchen. I was like, well, that was interesting. So I love hearing this when talking to people like you guys and the pros. It's just, the advice is great.
Zane, what would you say percentage-wise you're hitting thirds versus drives?
I would say I am hitting drops probably 0% of the time. I'm hitting hybrid drop drives probably about 40% of the time, and drives 60% of the time. So Thomas is full of it.
But I asked
You're
the
cap,
question.
bro. You're cap.
I asked the question.
Well, I mean,
That's
so here's the
funny.
thing. Like, I say it in my clinics as well. Like, you absolutely have to develop a drop. So when my most offensive shot is not my third shot drive. It's actually my hybrid, the in between a drop and a drive. When I'm pushed back and they hit a good return to me, I'm gonna hit a drive, and then I'm gonna come in for that fifth shot drop.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm actually on offense and have an easier ball, I'm not going to drive it. I'm going to hit that in between drop and drive type of thing to try and get it down at their feet. So that's actually a more offensive shot than a drive.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe 5% of the time dropping a third shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say
it's more of a drop drive. It's more of a drop.
Yep.
A drive drop kind of. Okay.
Drive, drop, drip, hybrid, all that.
Yeah.
I cannot say clearly enough that I think that super powerful paddles make the game boring, because it actually, while you think of it, powerful paddles means hitting the ball hard. No, it actually means you're afraid to hit the ball hard because it's coming back at you harder if you screw it up. Dead paddles would make the game far more interesting. So I generally think soft and spinny paddles are what the professionals should be playing with, and I think that the pros should actually have a lower standard of power than amateurs. And actually, baseball is a great example of this, right? Up until professional level, you're using aluminum bats, and then at the pro level, they've dumbed it down, and you have to use wood bats. So they actually have worse technology at the professional level, and I think that that's important for us. I think we need to do the same thing. I think pros can already swing super hard. They can already generate more power on their own. Let's rein in the power of the paddle so that I can actually showcase my skill and my ability to hit the ball hard. And it's not just the equipment.
That's PicklePod. PicklePod. PicklePod.
PicklePod. Take it easy.
PicklePod.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's PicklePod.
PicklePod.
That's PicklePod. That's PicklePod.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm a big fan again, so I appreciate it.
Okay, now that's PicklePod.
Yeah, PicklePod. Okay, get the hint, Augie. Thanks for coming.
All right.
PicklePod.
PicklePod.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, rather had fun.